Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts, and welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
Current born, wave flung, tugged hugely by the whole might of ocean. The jellyfish drifts in the tidal abyss. The light shines through it, and the dark enters it. Borne, flung, tugged from anywhere to anywhere. For in the deep sea there is no compass but nearer and farther, higher and lower. The jellyfish hangs and sways. Pulses move slight and quick within it, as the vast diurnal pulses beat in the moon-driven sea. Hanging, swaying, pulsing, the most vulnerable and insubstantial creature, it has for its defense the violence and power of the whole ocean, to which it has entrusted its being, its going, and its will. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. My name is Ryan Sean O'Reilly, one of the hosts of this podcast. Joining me once again is my friend and companion, Richard Mell.
Oh, hello, Ryan. Nice to be here again. It's been about, 5 months since we last recorded?
It's been a few months since we recorded, but we've been dropping those episodes on time, which has been great. I know we had to kind of batch record for a while because you were out of town.
Yeah. Homeless. You were homeless.
Yeah, pretty much. We did stay in a hotel for like 14 straight days in Modesto.
Show off.
I don't recommend vacationing in Modesto. I'm not trying to show off either. I'm quite embarrassed about the entire situation, but I did about half of my planned trip.
Well, let's get into it. Let's
Sure.
explain what you're talking. You bought an old van, a Westphalia bus, and decided to pack up the family and travel the country.
Right. And it was good timing on my part, I thought. I just got let go from my previous job. I had a bit of cash. I had time with my family for once in my life, for the first time in my life. So we wanted to make something of it, and we planned a 3-month vacation. And it was going to be like about 45 to 5,000 miles. And we're going to go out to the West Coast, go down to South, then come back to Chicago. Thing is, we overheated, and I didn't want to risk overheating again.
Car problems.
In the desert.
Yeah.
So we went back up north. We saw different things on the way back up. And, the Pacific Northwest is pretty much where we're at the entire time. And, the place is beautiful. I've got no complaints staying there for longer than I had planned. But the trip got cut a little bit short, and we came back home, and now I'm just out there looking for a professional job here.
And back to podcasting.
Yeah.
Part of your trip, though, did take you to, like you said, the Pacific Northwest, where this book, The Lathe of Heaven, is centered, which is apropos. We can kind of get into that a little bit. But let me introduce our other co-host, who's no stranger to our fans, David Wilkinson.
Well, thank you. And I might be referring to Rick as Captain Fantastic for the rest of this episode, and I'm eager to hear about his adventures on the Mosquito Coast with his family.
Mosquito Coast, I love that. Yeah. It's a good reference. Well,
thank you. Well, actually, have you seen
the lead character in that movie? He's the dad, and he goes.
I can
nuts.
also throw that poison.
He also gets shot at the end. Thanks a lot.
Poison with Bible, I might throw out there too, but all great stories about dads that took their families on vacation. Oh man, that sounds just horrible. But I'm glad you're back and safe.
Wilk, Rick might have been traveling the country, but I feel like I have to welcome you back personally to the podcast. If memory serves me correctly, on our last episode, although you wouldn't know it by the preview episode that was just released, you walked off the last episode.
Yeah, I did, and I'm ready to accept your apologies for ruining what could have been a good episode.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, you guys did not like that horrible movie, Stalker.
We were just so, you know what?
God.
I wasn't in position to, criticize that movie. I thought it was actually pretty one of a kind, and I just wish I had a little bit more time to absorb what it had to offer.
Well, yeah, we don't have to rehash our whole review of that book and movie again, but things were a little heated last time. Hopefully this time we'll be able to move things in a more positive direction, and everyone will stay on board for the entire duration of the trip.
Honest to God, Brian, after reading this book and watching these movies, I'd be shocked if we disagree on too much here. This is I'm actually looking forward to this podcast, and so it should be fun. Nothing too terrible here.
Wow. Good.
Some upbeat foreshadowing from Wilk.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, Wilk, you're talking about the book that we're covering this episode, which is none other than The Lathe of Heaven, written by the author Ursula K. Le Guin. We also are going to be covering 2 movie versions of that. They were actually both essentially released for TV. One was released in 1980. It was directed by David Loxton and Fred Barzik, which starred Bruce Davison. And the other came out in 2002 and was directed by Philip Haas and starred James Caan. And also Lisa Bonet was in it, among others. But why don't we just go around the horn real quick, give our opening comments for this episode before we get into things. So I'm going to start with Rick. Rick, what's your just initial thoughts? Just one sentence, quick summary, just to sum up your thoughts for this content for the book show.
I really enjoyed reading this book. I read it with my wife. We just took turns from chapter to chapter while our kids were just kind of like screwing around on the campsite out in the Pacific Northwest, and really enjoyed it. The writing was great, and it really kind of waxed poetic quite often, and it wasn't, so far out there where you just kind of, it was relatable, very relatable.
Okay. Wilk, what about you? Just a quick summary, one sentence, the thoughts to start off the show here.
I found this to be a kaleidoscope of tributes to science fiction greats, a novel that takes the gloom of the 1970s and intersects it with the folklore of monkey paw stories. A fantastic and grim tale that makes you cheer and weep for the protagonist. It's both moving and chilling. Clearly a large influence on many writers and clearly influenced by others before it.
All right, excellent. And so for me, I'm just going to say this was a refreshing philosophical exploration into high-concept, esoteric questions draped in all the brilliant colors of science fiction. So that's my opening comment for this. As I said previously, this was written by Ursula K. Le Guin, a very well-respected author. Wilk, I believe you are going to tell us a little bit about the background and bio of Miss Le Guin.
Couple things. I like to start off by telling about the status of our authors, and I usually let you know if they're alive or dead. This one, alive. So it's a rare occasion here, but let's hear it for Ursula. She is still with us at the age of 86. And that being said, I dig this chick. I did not know anything about her, and I didn't recognize her in the book when we first picked this. And it turns out, she's actually written some books that I've read. She had a whole series of, oh my God, why am I blanking on it? God.
The Earthsea?
The Earthsea series, which I didn't realize was her, but I read that back in junior high and in high school. And
did you?
No, it was maybe even younger than that. I remember it was lying around the house or the library, and I got one and I read 2 or 3 and 4 and just kind of forgot about it. But that brought back a lot of memories. And she's old. She's 86 years old. She's from California, from Berkeley, a very liberal college town. And she's one of 4 kids, and she's the youngest of 3 brothers. And so I've got to think that maybe had an influence on her. It kind of makes you a bit rougher and tougher. I think to have 3 male influences over you, whether you're a boy or a girl. And she just came out of the gate writing with an intense level of fantasy and fiction. But what really brought her to the fold was somebody that Ryan loves, J.R. Tolkien, who you refer to as the master. And I love it when you do that. Can you do that right now? Thank you.
Oh, yes. J.R. Tolkien, the master.
And would you say he's great at the craft of writing?
Yes, he's very crafty.
Okay, so we've already got 2 of my favorite phrases, master and craft. But she read...
He's a master craftsman, if you want.
But much like you, Ryan, I think, when, she read J.R. Tolkien, it kind of opened up her eyes to the wide world of what could be written. And I think it really inspired her not to copy him or mimic him, but to follow in his footsteps and create worlds and explore the imagination. And I think reading this recent book kind of intertwine recent events in her life in with, the contemporary world that she creates in the novel. But, more about her. I guess if we're going to go into her bio, I can't say what did and didn't influence her, but I know Tolkien did, and she's very happily married. She's been married since 1953, I believe. Her husband is also in academia, and he's a PhD holder, and I believe he is still teaching, as is she, when she tours and, gives lectures.
I think she's retired from teaching. She might be retired from teaching,
I was, okay, she may be.
But that might be recent retirement.
And she would do guest lecturers or things like that. But she submitted her first story at age 11, and it was rejected. much like all of our first stories at 11 and 38 and 39. So for me personally, I can't speak for the rest of you. But yeah, I mean, so she's...
Except yours was rejected by Uncle Earl.
No, I did a short story contest a year ago. I didn't win. It was really sad. But I guess you didn't win either, Ryan. So there was 2 years. One of the Severed Head, that story.
I remember.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I was also rejected on that.
Ryan can relate.
Well, but Ryan's you're more of a writer than I am at this point because you're doing more writing, I hope, or at least probably should be. Anyways,
in theory,
it's hard for me to talk about her life without getting distracted because I really want to talk about the book and how much I loved it. But
well, she's very private. There's not a lot of specifics out there about her, and I've heard her say that she's private. You know, I know she's a parent. Her parents were they in academia? Yeah, I think they were. At least one of them was an anthropologist, and I think that influenced her writing and her use of words. In fact, I attended Worldcon just recently, which is over in Kansas City, and I was at a panel of about audiobooks, and one of the speakers was a narrator, and I think he was part owner of this company, but one of the speakers had...
It's a big advertisement for his craft or what?
Well, it was just a panel about audiobooks, and if you want to get into it and how it all works and stuff like that.
Call him up, he'll give you a quote.
He said that at some point earlier in his career that he had acquired the rights to do new audiobooks for the Earthsea series that Wilk was just talking about, and he worked with Ursula Guin on it. And one of the things he said was that, a lot of times I don't think he liked to consult with authors he just asked them some basic questions and have to do his own interpretation of his readings. But Ursula was very knowledgeable about words and all the made up words and stuff she put into her books.
Was she overly specific for some of the passages, or
her anthropology background, or with her family, she just had a fascination with other cultures and stuff. And so the words weren't just made up out of thin air; they had meanings and stuff, and they were from other cultures and based on things.
Mm-hmm.
It's in fantasy science fiction, people make up words and stuff all the time, but sometimes it reeks of effort, and other times, like when you got someone like Tolkien, who's a philologist and studied words, it really flows. So it's not a easy thing. But I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Wilk. I noticed that she...
Well, just one or two things.
Okay, go ahead.
She, towards the end of her career and recently, she spoke out very vocally about Google publishing others' work and digitizing books. She's against that. She's very into the idea of protecting the actual written word, the bound novel, the bound book, and she's not too keen on it being put out there into the public sphere without people paying for it. A very Metallica-esque view on the dissemination of information in this age. But
she resigned from the Authors Guild because they were making a settlement with Google that they, I guess they felt was in the end better for authors, but she resigned.
So she was against the digital print version of her own books, even if they were like for sale for $9.99, for example, or just...
Yeah. No, I think Wilk might be able to explain it better. I think Google was essentially just scanning all these books without permission, right?
They wore like libraries, academia things, and I think she's more afraid of a slippery slope. I mean, I like Google because I do a lot of research in my other job besides podcasting, and Google Scholar and the Google Library Project has been fantastic for what I do. And occasionally, but I have read book. I mean, almost any book we want is you can get a PDF for free online, whether it's not even like you're not even downloading anything. It's pretty accessible, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like at some point there was bards out there that were against the printing press, and I don't know, people still sing. So, I mean, nature finds a way, talent finds a way, Metallica's still making money, we're still talking about her. I mean, that it's one of those things where maybe it's just hard to accept the new at a certain age, but yeah. But I mean, I think
Metallica's out on one of those desperation tours right now. Though.
They're not. They
need money.
They're not. Well, they do not need money.
They're like 65 years old and they're on the road right now.
No, Rick, they're not. But I hope they are because I haven't seen them in probably ever. Like 20 years or whatever the hell it was when we saw them. But no, their 11th album comes out in November, and the first single off of it sounds pretty like Ride the Lightning-esque stuff. But yeah, I want to go see them. I want to go see a big Metallica show. I would dig that.
Cool.
Yeah, they put on a good performance.
It's like a Broadway show kind of thing. I mean, it's big, it's spectacle, it's expensive.
Yeah, they're consummate professionals.
Yeah. So
anything else on Ursula?
I like her hair. It's short.
True. She's pretty politically outspoken. I think she cares about, especially in her writing, she's environmentalism elements. I saw that she writes poetry, and she also did her own version of, I don't think I can pronounce this correctly, but it's an Eastern philosophy, Tao Te Ching. Do you know what this is, Rick?
No, I didn't look into that.
Okay.
It's definitely a recurring theme across her works.
Yeah. So she also has played with gender. One of her famous books, Left Hand of Darkness, was, I think it won some awards, but, where some of the characters were genderless and they would just turn into a gender just temporarily. So she's explored a lot of kind of interesting themes and stuff that has garnered her respect.
She had a conversation with Bill Moyers. Bill Moyers asked her, you know, did Dr. Haber have to be a man? And she was like, absolutely not. It could have been a woman. Women have the same ambitions, and you can't take that away from a female. She didn't really answer for George Orr, though. She didn't indicate, you know, how a woman would do in his role. You know, maybe
I think
she just didn't think
said,
of it, but
she looked back on it and she wouldn't have not have changed the protagonist.
Yeah.
She didn't feel like she could have, she thought that, George Orwell was okay as a man and she wouldn't necessarily have changed him. Cause I think she said she didn't want it to be like a man, like oppressing a woman and the focus being on that.
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to Bill Moyer. He's, probably one of the very few journalists on television that still have integrity and all of that. So.
Yeah, I'll try to put a link up to that clip on the show notes.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we have anything else to add about her? I mean, she's had a very long career, but, you know, I think we've covered a lot about her, at least for an overview.
Does Bill Morris have that much integrity, or he's just kind of like a liberal douchebag?
No, he's got integrity. I mean, you have to be liberal in order to be a good journalist.
Yeah.
You really do. You have to kind of break through barriers constantly with other people who are being secretive for profitable reasons, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, but he's like a government shill. I mean, he's on PBS, for Christ's sakes, sucking the corporate teat, taking those tax dollars, pushing the agenda. I don't know.
That wouldn't be the corporate teat, though.
If he works for the government, then
they
shouldn't have socialist.
They get corporate and government donations. So
right,
yeah,
part of the salary comes directly from the government, our taxpayer money.
So we covered Ursula pretty good here. Why don't we get into the book? Rick, can you give us a synopsis of the book? You know, tell us the main characters and give us a little overview of what the plot is for the book.
Well, the protagonist introduced as a drug-addled
George Orr.
George Orr is a drug-addicted designer. I think he's a draftsman, and he figured out that his dreams affect reality. In the case of his aunt, who she died in his dreams, and then she also died in real life, and it kind of spooked him out. And I'm sure he had other anecdotes, but he wants to suppress his dreams. That's his main objective. He doesn't want to dream anymore. He doesn't want to dream effectively, quote unquote. So he's already busted for borrowing other drugs. They send him to a psychiatrist. You know, basically he's almost forced into this situation with the psychologist. The psychologist is Dr. Haber. I don't know his first name, but
William Haber.
William Haber. Okay. William Haber is a kind of like an aging professional, very humble at the very beginning. And once he starts to see George Orr's powers, he basically evolves into a major international director of oncology, which is the science of dreams and psychology. And he holds a very high position. So he's been using George Orr's dreams for his own benefit. And also he's been using his dreams to kind of save the planet as well. But you kind of figure out which comes first, his own ego and the things that he wants and his own fantasies, or is it the planet? And at the end, he kind of, you know, perspires and kind of loses it. So, you know, that's my synopsis.
Okay, and I think you're leaving out that at some point the protagonist George Orr feels he realizes he's being taken advantage of, so he goes to talk to a lawyer, Heather Lalache, I think is her name.
Heather Lalache, yeah.
And she tries to he pleads to her. He has to convince her that his dreams change reality, which he doesn't necessarily do at first, but he does convince her or intrigue her enough to come in and
it's a synopsis, right?
Yeah, and view the dreams and try to help him convince the doctor from stopping to.
She's like the third party, the objective perspective that kind of is the control subject in the book.
Yeah. And I think the book is told from their three perspectives, right? I think it alternates between the three of them.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, Wilk, let's go to you. I got a kind of a big question right off the bat. Is Dr. Haber, the psychologist who is literally hooking up George Ordo machine to get him to dream and then telling him what to dream in hopes of changing the world, is he evil?
Yeah, he is. He's pure evil.
Pure.
Pure
as black, right?
He represents, I mean, like, he's a different side of a coin. I mean, if you look at Orr and Haber as, like, humanity, Haber represents the part that wants to exploit the other half. He wants to gain. He wants to do something. He doesn't want to get by in the sweat of his own brow, but in the sweat of other people's brows, literally. And he, instead of the person he's supposed to help, he takes advantage of and becomes a leech and tries to use his power for his own gain and his own vision. I mean, I hate to give Rick a bone here, but it's kind of a metaphor for capitalism gone awry. And I almost, the name Haber was similar to hubris, as Orr was similar to Orwell, and I kept reading that throughout it, but like, I just felt like he was a complete tool who did nothing except take advantage of this guy and then exploit his power for, what he thought was his own gain, and he kept screwing things up,
But I think it's not as straightforward as that. Now, I remember Ursula Le Guin, and I've saw it in other reviews point this out. She has said in her writing that she doesn't like to write quote unquote villains. I guess, black and white villains, clearly evil, good versus evil. And I do think that Haber has other dimensions to him that don't make him this evil. Like he takes things down a bad path, but he does try to say that he's doing things for the greater good, right? He's trying to get rid of starvation.
Ultimately, the greater good is for himself because he's at the capital of this planet Earth of ours, and Portland turns into the capital of the world. So, I mean, he's built quite the fortress around his prospects and everything that he realizes through George's dreams. He really protects himself, even in the utopia. I mean, everything is surrounded on his technology and his his insights.
And I hate, God, this is like so left wing, but like I really felt like the author looked at this from an environmental standpoint as if Orr was creating. Think of Orr as a god who creates the world, as he did for Haber, the environment, so to speak. Haber has the hubris to think, I can change the will of God. I can change the environment.
Just give me a little bit more power, and I can get this right.
And everything he does monkey paws itself into some kind of horrible thing. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to go against what your vision is, superior being. I'm going to make it my own way, and then he fucks it all up. I mean, and again,
I think that would be a common approach with a lot of people, like 90% of people who are in that position. I think they would all try and engineer something that they thought was proper.
Well, I think that could be a fault of just all people.
Maybe it's not evil, but it's a comment. Like, you look at Tolkien's influence. Tolkien didn't really believe in good or evil. Well, he believed that nothing was inherently evil, but it could be corrupted. And Haber could be the same way. He's not an inherently evil person, but like what he ended up doing caused death, despair, starvation, disease. And I mean, those are horrible things, and they were caused directly by him, maybe unintentionally, but I mean, the other person was doing what he could to suppress those things from happening. And I just looked at Haber as like the fly in the ointment,
But Haber's philosophy is if one person has to die to save 100, that's what we need to do. But he extrapolates that. But, another interesting thing is that George Orr never, he constantly says, Haber is not evil. He's trying to do what's right. He just doesn't understand that he can't do what he thinks he can do.
Maybe
seems to be what Orr.
Oh, maybe Orr loves all his children because Haber's only there because Orr imagined him being there. The world's gone. This is all a dream world that Orr created in his mind that's gone awry. So, I mean, Haber is a figment.
The thing is,
No, he's a...
The thing is, Haber...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
Well, Haber started to get on George Orr's nerves, though. And George Orr very well could have eliminated him from existence. But he never did. Because
Good point.
It's just...
He could be a component of his own ego.
Right. But even George never had complete control on his dreams. But I think he always knew that he had that power. I mean, you can kind of lead into dreams sometimes if you focus on things enough. He wasn't that much of a bane in his life, I guess. He was just an irritation. Kind of like the fly in the Vaseline, I guess.
But George Orr, Wilk, he doesn't have control of his dreams. I guess you could say Haber doesn't really have total control either. But George Orr, he can't make things happen how he wants. And he's realized this, and so he's stopped trying to control things.
I disagree.
And I really?
I do.
Why?
Because he literally, after the world was destroyed, he dreamed this world, and he knew that, and I think he was going insane knowing that it was unreal, and that's why he used drugs. Not because he couldn't control his dreams, didn't want to dream, but he wanted to forget that everything around him was imaginary, that he's living in a fantasy that he created, and nothing is real. That he is a god of empty wasteland, and it was driving him insane. I mean, I think he had control over it.
I do think that that's there. He is sort of losing realities, and he's got this greater, grandiose perspective. It's hard to write a character like that who is has memories of past worlds and present worlds. But I do think he was just trying to stop the dream. And I mean, I think the quote I read for the book about the jellyfish, Le Guin puts that in there purposely because look at how a jellyfish lives. It just kind of goes with the current of the sea. And I think that's also George Orr's philosophy. It's better to kind of just go along with life and maneuver around it than sit there and try to grip it and control it with your, meaty hands where you're just going to keep screwing things up because the world is too big and who are you to try to control everything? I think that's the juxtaposition between the two characters.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast. So it's a nice little lab for those two types of personalities. I mean, George Orr does protest, and he has philosophical arguments with Dr. Haber, but
he keeps going back.
Orr never has enough resolve to just sort of have his way. He did leave therapy for like a week or something.
Yeah. And then he gives into...
Went out on hiatus.
He gives into Heather, because then she says, I'll help you.
Yeah.
And he tries to let her help him.
Right.
By hypnotizing him. Well,
so,
or Rick, did you say this, that you felt that Heather LaLache is the objective perspective?
Well, she's not on this mind trip with the other two. She's living as a real, flesh and blood person that's also in the world that is changing constantly. So she's kind of like the control subject. And, it shows every time that George Orr, for the fifth time, asks her on like a first date, in her memory. And it's just, it's kind of like telling the reader that, there are people out there, and this is kind of like how they're thinking, especially when she gets into LaLache's perspective. And she also kind of lives in the moment. And I think that's what their attraction is between George and Heather. And they adapt perfectly. They adapt with a lot of grace, with a lot of sort of, they let go. They exemplify all of the great things of, Buddhist monks. You stand there before an erupting volcano with absolutely no fear, and you're not going to leave because you're going to be dead anyway, and you're just calm as shit, and your heartbeat is fine. That's the kind of thing that these two kind of go through together. And she's doing it with such a short memory. It's kind of like exemplary of how George handles it as well,
I was reading an article on Tor.com by Joe Walton, I think was another author, pointing out that at some point, Haber convinces Orr to change it so that there's no racism, and it ends up that everyone is gray. And I think that's when Orr convinces Heather to go out with him, and they have a relationship. But then he kind of despairs because she's different. She's not the same person that she was before, and that she lost part of her identity when she lost because she's black. And she loses part of her identity when she loses her color. She lost
her black culture, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, which was also part of who she was.
Yeah, I believe
it was kind of an interesting point.
Yeah, but you get to know her history, and she never knew her black father. She was raised by her black mother.
But that changes like when everyone turns gray.
Yeah,
it's one of the iterations of the world.
Right, everyone's gray for a time.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'll go to you,
which was probably the best special effect in all of the movies, except for the 2002 version.
All right, well, we'll get to that. Wilk, let me go to you for this. In this book, there's aliens. They're sort of, I guess, described as like turtle creatures, like turtle-like creatures. And the way they come into the book first is because Haber wants to bring world peace. So how do they do that? These aliens are camped out on the moon, and so Earth bands together to defeat these aliens. Later on, George Orr tries to fix things again, and the aliens end up on the planet, and people are interacting with them, and it turns out the aliens are actually peaceful, and everyone just misunderstood what was going on. How did you feel about the element of the aliens in the book?
I mean, I felt like they were imaginary. They were just like figments of his imagination. It was a device that he created to thwart the will of the other person. I mean, I really think them as actual aliens, just as just another...
So you don't think that his dreams are reality, are actually becoming
well? No, I mean
real.
No, I think they are for the purpose of the book, but the aliens themselves aren't real. I mean, he has the power to create things, but he's created fiction. So, I mean, they're not actual aliens. He's not beckoning aliens from their race to come there. None of it's really happening. I mean, he's God, essentially, so it's like he has the God code. He can create things, but they weren't there before. So, I mean, he can create a rock.
But that's so interesting, because isn't that the point then? Like, what, when you look at it that way, then it's like, well, what was there before?
What?
Because he's always been dreaming, and then and you get the illusion that other people in this world, in this book, have also the power to dream. And so that is one of the things this book I thought was interesting, was that or fascinating, was that there was multiple realities, and they talk about this mist between these different realities and how people will remember some things from the past in some perspectives and other things from the present.
No, have you guys ever had a dream where time passed in a way that didn't really correspond with what your concept of time was, where it seemed like more time passed in the dream than you were asleep for, to any extent?
Yeah, I don't actually dream like that. I'm wide awake thinking that.
No, but
depending on what I'm doing.
No, but there's a school of thought out there that the last second of your life can go on for 1 billion years, and essentially where your body can shut itself down to the point where it'll crystallize time, and you can live an eternity in that last moment of your life. And this whole there was a nuclear war in 1998. He could have died. This whole story could be a projection of the last second of his life, where he's living out these various fantasies and scenarios as they exist only to him, and him coming to terms with that, of his own actual inevitable doom and demise and death. But the fact that he can recreate these things, and only he can remember the past, suggests that it's a unilateral street, and that he is in complete control of a fantasy world. And the other people in it aren't really that important.
He's not in control, though. Your subconscious mind is not a controllable thing.
Maybe not in control, but he is in control in the sense that he's the only person that can affect that world.
But they talk about other people having this same power, and then ultimately Haber ends up getting the power.
Yeah, through him, though.
Right.
No, at some point I think Haber does it on his own, right? That's when Haber loses it.
Yeah, but after
Haber.
Yeah, he emulates the brainwaves of George Orr, and he basically transposes them onto his own thought process, and he goes nuts.
Yeah, but he does it on his own, not through Haber.
Oh.
So other people.
No, Haber did it for himself.
He doesn't do it through George Orr. That's what I meant. He doesn't do it through George Orr. He does it on his own.
Right.
So Ursula Guin, I was looking on her website, and she talks about this, and other people talk about this. She was influenced at some point by Philip K. Dick. And this book is probably, I think she definitely had influence from him on this book. She messes with realities by these different worlds and stuff. It's kind of like a Philip K. Dick kind of thing that he plays with. Of course, we covered Philip K. Dick already twice before when we did Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. And then second season, we Can Remember For You Wholesale, the Total Recall episode. And we're going to be covering him later this year, Man in the High Castle. I heard, how would you guys compare this to Philip K. Dick? Wilk, how would you compare this book to like a Philip K. Dick book, like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Probably too much, because in my mind I've already got like different scenarios working out through here. I mean, I thought this was like a loving tribute to Philip K. Dick and to George Orwell and to Tolkien. It was kind of like almost like watching like a great Tarantino movie where he's paying homage to all of his influences. I mean, this book's like a love letter to all these authors that we like. Even Ray Bradbury was in there a little bit too. And when things started going wrong with these dreams that came up, I just thought, I mean, all these short stories I read by him, and even, I guess, I don't know. I mean, like Stephen King wasn't around back then, but like, I don't know. Yeah, I think there was definitely multiple influences on here intentionally, or homages or tributes, and definitely like it's influenced things that I've read since then. Just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely had some magic there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was looking at this as like the We'll Remember It For You Wholesale. That's what kept going through me. I kept thinking it was all a big mindfuck. Yeah. And even listening right now, it's like that's kind of my take on the book to a certain extent, and that's the angle I chose to perceive it in. And like that's how I read the book the whole time, like the way I described. And I don't know, so it kind of
I agree with that, but I feel like it's less nefarious.
Yeah, maybe
I don't think it's a complete mindfuck, but I think it does. It's a messing. It makes you think about what is reality, what's not reality, and then it's like that, but it's less nefarious than maybe a Philip K. Dick writing would be.
I guess, yeah.
Any other elements that you guys wanted to talk about the book?
No, I mean, the book is more about psychology than it is about the special effects. And I think it didn't matter what the alien looked like. It could have been absurd, and it was absurd. Turtles talking out of their elbows. Who thinks of that? She just I think she was just playing with some Scrabble, tiles or something like that, threw them up in the air and kind of did some free association from what she saw. But she didn't care. She even said that, it didn't matter. The whole book is about nothing. It pretty much wrote itself. She kind of just...
I think she said she's not an outliner. I think she just goes along with these books.
Yeah, well, no, this was the first case where she just went. She didn't outline shit. She just fucking went.
Yeah, it did kind of fall apart throughout the second half a little bit, but I mean, it got kind of repetitive, but other than that, I mean, it wasn't bad.
At first, I thought the introduction of the aliens was going to feel artificial to me, but in the end, looking at it as a complete piece, I feel like it works, and I was glad that she had added that element.
Well,
you should write her a letter and tell her you're glad. She'll appreciate it.
She's still alive.
Yeah.
True.
Get it.
All right, well then, sounds like we're about ready to wrap things up here, so why don't we close it off and just give our final comments on the book and movie. Wilk, let me go to you. Why don't you give us your star rating and your any final comments you have about the book?
I gave this book 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because I thought the writing style wasn't worth 5 stars, but overall the story and the way it made me feel pushed it above 3. And I would definitely, if you like any science fiction, any fantasy, if you like Stephen King, if you like Ray Bradbury, if you like Philip K. Dick, I would recommend you read this book. You'll get something out of it. And it sounds like we all enjoyed it, and I think it's a must read. So 4 stars.
Cool. Rick, let's go to you.
Yeah, I want to give it 5 stars, but it was more of like the writing and the story and the plot and how it kind of went along. There was a mist in the book, okay? And it was because reality was changing all the time. So can't just give it 5 stars. It was probably just meant to be that way, so I should give it 5 stars. But I'm going to give it 4 just because it was a little frustrating at times. You had to just read it right through, and I probably had like one too many sessions with the book. So 5 stars if I read it through one time, but I'll give it 4 stars because I do that.
Although it is a short book, it's only like a novella.
Right.
For me, I'll say this is an excellent read, and I also recommend it highly. I understand that I haven't read anything else by her, but I understand that this is probably different than a lot of her other stuff, especially like the Earthsea series. However, it's just great. I thought about giving this 5 stars, but I also am going to back it off. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars because I did think it was a superb book. However, I just thought it was just lacking some little thing that I couldn't tell, or I was just we're totally...
The hero wasn't carrying an AR-15, right, Ryan? He didn't use any guns.
I mean,
no, it wasn't that. I couldn't quite give it 5 stars.
Can we back up here? We get half stars now? When did this happen?
You can't give a half a star.
I feel like you're just trying to one-up Rick and me at this point. Like,
dude, I could have done the half star easily.
I would agree. Well, I wouldn't agree with you, but if you look, my rating for the stars was actually in the Google Doc, like previous to the recording of the show.
No one's looking at your goddamn Google Docs. I mean, come on. Okay, then I
noticed
give it
that.
4.25 star then.
Yeah, I give it 4.
No, at some point, you guys started giving half stars, so then I gave in.
I don't think, no, not sober.
Go back and listen to the episodes.
Yeah, but you can't give it a half star in Goodreads, can you?
No, I know. That's the problem.
Well, then, I mean, it's got to match your Goodreads.
So how are you going to figure this out, Ryan? I mean, what are we going to end up with? 4 stars or 5?
I feel like you're mad because Rick and I both said 4 stars and you want to be different somehow.
No.
Well, you got to be 4 stars or 5 stars. You can't do 4.5. It's got Goodreads. What do you put on Goodreads?
This is not like a relative
on Goodreads, I'll have to give it on Goodreads, I'll have to give it a 4 star.
Okay, so it's
because I'm not going to give it 5.
Okay, so it's 4 stars.
4 stars.
And a half.
Okay, then mine's 4 5/8.
Go back and look at the other episodes. You guys started giving half stars at some point.
I feel that your love of Trump is corrupting you at this point.
It always goes back to Trump.
Certainly is.
All right.
And by the way, I have supported Trump in previous episodes. I just want to let everyone know I'm screwing around with everyone. I never wanted Trump to be president. And if he were to be president, it'd be pretty scary. So
I agree. I'm actually volunteering. I'm going to a Democratic rally in Ypsilanti on Friday to meet our congressperson. And we're going to go volunteer, Laura and I, because we're not political. I just think Trump is like so incredibly dangerous just as an individual and a movement that, I don't know, it makes me sick that they get involved in politics at all, but like I'll do whatever I can to make sure he doesn't get elected. Yeah, but...
Right. Ryan, especially in the aftermath of all the controversy and everything that he has said, he's incited hate and possibly assassination on our own president. Are you willing to just kind of declare if you are for Trump or not? Because, I mean, I really don't like associating myself with people who kind of back that up. I mean, if you're going to vote for that, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Plain and simple.
So I will invite everyone to join us next episode in a short week where we're going to cover the Lathe of Heaven movies. The first one was released in 1980 on PBS and was directed by David Loxton and Fred Barzik. And like I said before, the other one came out on A&E and was directed by Philip Haas and starred James Caan. Until then, we'd invite you to visit our website, www.nodeodorant.com. Follow us on Twitter. We have a YouTube page. We have a Facebook fan page. We're on iTunes. We'd wholly appreciate if people would write reviews of our show there. You can listen to our show on Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. We're also on iHeartRadio now, which is a new announcement. So if you like iHeartRadio, that app, you can listen to our podcast there. So until then, we will say farewell and good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Bill O'Reilly's Ryan's uncle, right?
Wilk, say good night.
Good night, Ryan.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseano'reilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
The volume on the mic input. All right. Hey, I'm ready, guys. Let's go.
We're waiting on Will. It's okay. We're all a little rusty, I assume.
I'm recording and I have lines. Okay.
Okay, you have wave files. Rick has wave files.
Mm-hmm.
Current born, wave flung, tugged hugely by the whole might of ocean. The jellyfish drifts in the tidal abyss. The light shines through it, and the dark enters it. Born, flung, tugged from anywhere to anywhere. From the deep sea there is no compass but nearer and farther, higher and lower. The jellyfish hangs and sways. Pulses move slight and quick within it, as the vast diurnal pulses beat in the moon-driven sea.
Wiser.
Hanging, swaying, pulsing, the most vulnerable and insubstantial creature, it has for its defense the violence and power of the whole
Say
ocean,
hang again.
to which it has entrusted its being, its going, and its will.
It's drowning.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. Wilk, that was pretty good, but actually, can you say that a little slower? You have a tendency to talk really fast. I think it'll be kind of lost in everyone. Seriously, just take a breath and
so nervous.
Say it like a little slower.
Just trying to do a good job. Okay.
No, but you have a tendency to talk fast. I know you do, so I want to make sure we can hear
All right. This is why I need more sedatives in my life. Yeah, I mean, I don't like PBS because they're really kind of pro-charter school, which to me...
Yeah, but that's I think that's a lot of pressure coming in from the outside.
But that's the...
PBS used to be kind of like the beacon of, non-for-profit productions.
I'm with...
No influence.
I'm with you.
So
let's put a pin. I want to finish my sentence.
No, wait, guys, let's continue this.
Hey, guys, we're gonna
go ahead.
This is when you guys are gonna complain. We're here for 3 hours.
Well, go ahead, Will.
No, I'm just saying the influence.
I mean, you're not talking about the book or the author or anything anymore. You're talking about charter schools.
He is from that Stone Age, Will. Bill Moyer was there without all the commercialism.
I like Dan Rather. He's my favorite. But
Dan Rather. Yeah, I like him too.
All right. Sorry, Ryan. You wanted to go back to the podcast or something?
Yeah. I know you guys don't like to record till midnight, but maybe that's what'll happen.
You don't have any thoughts about charter schools?
No. So, I will invite everyone to join us next.
He is going to vote for Trump.
Oh my God, you're such a Trumper, dude. Why are you so full of hate?
In a short week,
dude. Oh my
we're
God,
going to cover
stonewalling me like he's on Fox News.
Just say,
who am I talking to? Sean
the
Hannity?
First one was released in 1980.
Just say,
and PBS.
You love Hannity, don't
David
you?
Loxton and
Another
Fred
Irish
Barzik.
freaking.
Just say you don't support the hate
out on
monger.
A&E It was directed by Philip Haas.
He's monologuing.
Oh my
He's
God,
monologuing.
Ryan.
It's too early for a
Until
monologue.
then, we'd invite you to visit our website,
Ryan, you are a fascist pig, man.
www.nodeodorant.com.
Hey,
Follow us on
das
Twitter.
Website ist
We have a
grand.
YouTube page. We have a Facebook fan page.
Was ist das?